So one of you just described this main event in a way that I couldn't believe just how perfect it was. You said this is the most one-sided competitive fight you've ever seen, and that is such a perfect way to describe exactly what happened tonight. Of course, I'm talking about Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena. Now, these two women have already fought once. The first time they fought, of course, Juliana Pena came out on top. It was such a weird fight that it just raised a bunch of questions, because the Amanda Nunes we saw on that night isn't the Amanda Nunes that we were used to, right? She got into a firefight, a weird firefight with Juliana Pena. Which, by the way, Juliana Pena ended up winning, which was completely unexpected, because when you think of firefight, you're thinking Amanda Nunes. When you think of firefight, you're generally thinking of the more powerful fighter. Why would you get into a firefight with the fighter that's more powerful? Well, that's exactly what Juliana Pena did. And she came out on top, blasted Amanda Nunes multiple times. In round number 2, was able to take her back and actually choked her out. And so going into fight number 2, everybody had the question, what the hell happened? Why did the first fight go like it did? Are we going to see some changes? Did Juliana Pena just expose Amanda Nunes? Are we now seeing that she's better? And then it came out, well, Amanda was sick. She had COVID. The fact that she had COVID affected her cardio. I had COVID. I know exactly what it does to your cardio. I still haven't even fully recovered from that. Like, it really does a number on your cardio. She wasn't able to spar, apparently, for the fight. She was having issues with her gym. Just a bunch of weird distractions here and there that prevented her from training correctly for the fight. It is also possible that she maybe overlooked Juliana a little bit. You know, Juliana has had a few losses in the UFC. She's lost some big ones, some small ones as well. So it wasn't completely crazy to think that Amanda didn't have to be at 100% to beat Juliana. You know what I mean? But what tonight proved is that to beat Juliana, as well as any fighter like Juliana Pena, you actually do have to be at 100%. And what do I mean by fighter like Juliana? I'm talking about extremely tough, durable, and well-conditioned fighters. Now, I'm somebody that puts a lot of stock in skill. I'm someone that really loves very skillful fighters. My favorite fighters in the world are generally fighters with a lot of skill. Fighters that are just way better than their opponents in skill. You look at boxing. He was a huge fan of Floyd Mayweather. Look at jiu-jitsu. My favorite grappler is Gordon Ryan. I appreciate highly skilled fighters so much. But the most fascinating thing is that even a wealth of skill, even when you completely surpass your opponent in skill, if they are tougher than you, or if they are tough enough to withstand the damage that you're putting on them, that's a hard, difficult fight. Conor McGregor discovered that twice against Nate Diaz. I mean, if you were just to look at the round number 1 of the 2 fights Conor had with Nate, you can clearly see who the more skilled fighter is, who the better striker is. Clearly, it is Conor McGregor. He's got the accuracy, he's faster, timing, everything, speed. He was just flat out better. But then you went into a guy or a fighter who, as you're beating their ass, as you're using them as a punching bag, you're blasting them over, you're dropping them multiple times over and over again, and they just stay in the fight. They just won't go away. They just won't break. You keep beating them up and beating them up and beating them up until you realize, holy fuck, I'm gassing out, beating the shit out of this person. What the hell? Like, I'm winning. I'm the more skilled fighter. I'm better. I'm whooping their ass. Why the hell am I gassing out now? Why am I tired? Why am I about to lose this fight? That is exactly nightmare scenario for a skilled fighter, where your skill kind of doesn't carry you as far as you think it will. And that's exactly what we saw tonight. And to defeat a fighter like that, to defeat a very tough fighter like that, who can make your skill not matter as much as it should on paper, you gotta be on point the whole entire way. And not just on point with your skill, but also with your tactics. And I really appreciated how Amanda Nunes approached this fight. She came in skillful, with a lot of skill, But more importantly, she came in with the right tactics, because you could be as skillful as you want. Many times, the more skilled opponent loses because they came in with the wrong tactics. You got to have the right tactics to deal with whatever opponent that you're dealing with. And Amanda had the right tactic. As the fight started off, Amanda Nunes went southpaw. And I was wondering, like, why the hell is she going southpaw? Like, what's going on? Like, why is she going southpaw? Man, if you go southpaw, it can really disrupt a lot of things, especially if you're not used to fighting southpaw. You know, it can mostly it can disrupt your defense, because you're used to defending things a certain way from a certain stance. So when you start switching your stances, everything gets thrown off. Your head movement gets thrown off. Your footwork gets thrown off. Your blocking 100% gets thrown off. Your defense completely gets thrown off. So I'm like, why is she going southpaw? This makes no sense. And so one of you were like, isn't Amanda right hand dominant? And it clicked. I'm like, that's it. Of course they watched Valentina Shevchenko versus Juliana Pena. Of course they did. What does Valentina Shevchenko do very well? Yeah, that check hook, that over the right check hook that she used effectively against everybody that she's faced. The moment you try to enter the pocket, she snipes you with it. She did that very well against Holly Holm. She used it multiple times against Amanda Nunes herself. And Valentina Shevchenko has a submission win over Juliana Pena. And she used those hooks against Juliana Pena. And those hooks fall perfectly in line with what Amanda Nunes is very good at, which is a powerful right hand. And so by going right hand dominant, right hand lead, I meant to say, because generally, like, when you're southpaw because your powerful hand is, your left hand. But because she wanted to throw that check hook, that over the arm check hook that she was throwing, it was perfect to go southpaw. Not just that, it definitely threw off Juliana. I'm pretty sure Juliana did not expect to start the fight, and there's Amanda Nunes standing in front of her in southpaw. I'm sure that's not what the hell she trained. She trained for the same exact Amanda Nunes, who generally goes conventional. And so Juliana is trying to do exactly what she always does, which is be tough, be gritty. Just step in and just bite down on the mouthpiece and just fight. And Amanda is just sniping her. Boom! Right hook, boom, right hook, over and over again, dropped her multiple times, sat her down over and over again. It became very freaking clear who the most skilled fighter is. Like, if you watch the first few rounds and it wasn't apparent to you who the more skilled fighter is, I don't know what the hell you were looking at, but clearly Amanda showcased that she is flat out better. But then things start to get weird. Amanda is getting tired. Amanda is catching a few stray punches. I mean, when someone's blitzing in front of you going, rah, 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 you know what I mean? Like, unless you're freaking Floyd Mayweather or a seasoned boxer with really good eyesight and really good instincts and really good head movement, some of those stray punches will connect. They'll connect, your forehead. Some will land underneath your eye, your mouth. You're going to get busted up and bruised here and there as those stray punches are hitting you. And so Juliana just kept doing that, just rah, 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 the kind of Holly Holm style of blitzing in with shots. And Amanda just kept countering. But then you see Amanda start to get tired too. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, geez, Louise, is she going to gas her? Is Amanda going to beat the shit out of her in the first 3 rounds and then lose the last 2 rounds, or maybe even get finished because she gassed out punching this girl in the face? But that's not what happened. Amanda came in with the right tactic. As the rounds were closing in, as the fight was ending and it was about to come to an end, Amanda switched things up and started taking the fight to the ground. She transparently, clearly used the guard position to rest, to recover a little bit. She'll enter open guard. Of course, from bottom guard, when you're in somebody's close guard, they have the advantage. A lot of people don't understand this. When you ask a lot of people, hey, these 2 people on the ground, one of them is in close guard top, the other is in close guard bottom. Who do you think is winning? Generally, people would say, well, the fighter on top. But you forget that even though the fighter's upper body is on top, the hips, the hips is not on top. The fighter that's underneath in close guard, their hip is on top of your hip. And when their hip is on top of your hip, they are actually on top. Because one sweep, guess what happens? You end up in full mount. And from close guard, they have all the submissions in the world. They've got arm bars, they've got triangles, they've got omoplatas, they've got TP triangles. They have all variation of triangles. They have kimuras, they have guillotines. They can easily take your back from, they can, one transition, they can take your back easily. One sweep and they have full mount. I mean, being in somebody's close guard is not a good place to be at all. Now, you on top, you really, I mean, you have wrist locks. If you're savvy with it, you can drop down to like a leg lock, straight ankle lock. If you can lock in some kind of senkaku, you could probably go for like a knee bar or a heel hook. But generally, you don't have a lot of options on top. And so Amanda was just doing a good job of like just staying safe. She would get caught in an arm bar and she would like yank out of it. It was making me so nervous. I'm like, what the fuck? Stop yanking out of the arm bar. Defend it properly. She would get caught in a triangle. She would pivot, but give Juliana Pena the omoplata. Juliana was like hooking the gloves, locking the omoplata, but like really, really shallow. And so Amanda is able to slip out. It was just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth of like Amanda, landing solid ground and pound. Don't get me wrong, really nice elbows from guard, but like still such a risky place to be. And she just they kept doing this and doing this until the rounds were over. Round number 5 over. Amanda Nunes retains her belt, wins it handily. And yet, when you look at both of them, you'd be like, geez Louise, like, they went to war. And yet it really wasn't. It's like just one of those fights that's like, it was a war where one fighter was really dominant. Like, right? Like, it was like pretty much like you described it, whoever it was, a really, really competitive, one-sided ass whooping. Like, just like, what the hell? Man, I'm glad the more skilled fighter ended up winning. Just so everything makes sense in the world to me. When the more skilled fighter loses, it just grinds my gear. It does something to me. I'm like, I don't like it. I like when the more skilled fighter ends up winning. So I'm really, really glad that Amanda was able to go out there, get that belt back, and in some ways humble Juliana Pena a little bit, because she was starting to get a little bit crazy. Juliana was starting to get a little bit crazy, and I get it. She's trying to build her brand and trying to make sure people remember her name. I completely get it, but I think she needed this, to really understand that just being tough is not enough, man. You got to go beyond that. You got to have real tangible skills to be able to not only become champion, but to remain champion for a long time. And so, major congratulations to Amanda, the Lioness Nunes. Really, really solid win. Very happy for her. Really good fight to Juliana Pena. Demonstrated her toughness, her tenacity, her cardio, her will. And the fans won tonight. Anyways, let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about the fight. And I will see you guys later with a brand new one. As always, stay safe. Peace out. Have a good night, boys.